Every introverted leader I have ever coached has told me some version of the same thing. I feel like I'm faking it. And every single time, they were wrong. Not about the feeling. Of course, the feeling is true for them, but about what's causing it. Does this sound familiar? You're about to walk into a meeting, and before a word even comes out of your mouth, you're already running an internal audit. You're thinking, am I sitting in the right spot? Do I look confident enough? Can they tell that I'm nervous? Should I speak first or should I wait? And then someone jumps in with a half-baked idea, but with total certainty, and everyone responds like it was the best idea in the world. Meanwhile, your fully thought through idea is still sitting in your head while the room has moved on, and nobody ever gets to hear it because the right moment never happened. And once again, you beat yourself up. You keep thinking, I need to show up better. I need to work on being more visible. I need to work on my confidence. I need to work on my executive presence. You've been telling yourself the same version of that story for years, and it's not working. You're not becoming a quote unquote better leader. And that's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because you're trying to solve the wrong problem. You are not lacking confidence. You're really not. You're leading from a borrowed identity. And here's what's actually going on. At some point in your career, you probably looked around your organization and you noticed what quote unquote good leadership looks like, right? It looked like quick decisions, commanding presence, being super charismatic, being comfortable with being the center of attention, probably a lot of thinking out loud. And you thought, okay, that's the target. That's what I need to become. That's exactly what I saw in the person that promoted me to my first leadership role, actually. I still regard her as the best leader that I have ever had in my career. And this was like 15 or 20 years ago. She is still a dear friend of mine. She is an exceptional leader. She is the best leader I've ever had. But that does not mean her style is the only version of exceptional leadership. If you've had a similar experience, you've probably built a leadership self-concept around a similar model, just like I did. You created an internal picture of what leadership is supposed to look like, and it looks nothing like you. Now, every time you show up as yourself, your brain compares the real you to that borrowed blueprint. And every single time, your brain flags it as a mismatch. That mismatch is what you have been calling imposter syndrome. But you're not an imposter. You've just been measuring yourself against the wrong standard. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's noticing the gap between who you think you're supposed to be and who you actually are. The problem is not you. The problem is the blueprint. Imposter syndrome is not a confidence problem. It is a blueprint problem. It is an identity problem. And this is really important to know, right? Because it changes what the solution is. If it's a confidence problem, you need affirmations and you need power poses. But if it's an identity problem, you just need to rebuild that blueprint. So how do you actually rebuild your leadership identity? This is exactly what the reframe step of my Regulate, Reframe, Rise framework is designed to do. And I want to give you a specific exercise that you can do this week to start the process. But before you can do any meaningful identity work, your nervous system has to be calm enough for you to be able to access your thinking, for you to be able to think clearly. Because you already know this, if you are in a fight or flight state, you cannot tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. You can't tell the difference between a threat to your safety and a threat to your ego, because everything is going to feel urgent and true. So before you sit down to do this exercise, just take a few minutes to soothe your nervous system, to get yourself regulated. This can be whatever works best for you. Do some breathwork exercises, do a 10-minute meditation, take a quick walk around the block, or just go outside and spend some time in nature. Whatever it takes to get your body back to a calm, grounded state. Then you're ready to move on to the reframe step. I call this the identity audit. So you're going to need to grab a piece of paper. Go ahead and do that now. Draw a line down the center of your piece of paper, right down the middle. On the left-hand side, write down the leader I think I'm supposed to be. So at the top of the left column, write the leader I think I'm supposed to be. And on the right side, at the top of that column, write the leader I actually am when I'm at my best. So top of the right, the leader I actually am when I'm at my best. Now on the left, write down all the qualities that you've been chasing, all the qualities that you think you're supposed to have to be a great leader, the ones that feel like a performance for you. So maybe that's you trying to be outwardly charismatic, always on, first to speak, super fast and decisive, comfortable with conflict, never uncertain, things like that. Whatever that model is that you've seen around you and you're trying to live up to. Now on the right side, write down how you actually show up when you're at your best, when you're calm, when you're grounded, and you're showing up at your best and you feel like your authentic self. Maybe it's thoughtful, strategic, calm under pressure. Maybe it's deeply empathetic, or the person who asks the thoughtful question that actually changes the direction of the conversation in the room. Whatever is true for you. Now look at both columns. The left column is your borrowed identity. The right column is your actual leadership blueprint. And it is very important that you know that the right column is not the lesser version. It's the real one. It's the one your team actually trusts. And it's the one that produces the best results. Now, pick one quality from the right column, just one, and write a single sentence that claims it as a leadership strength, not a consolation prize. So not, I'm a good listener even though I'm not a great networker. Try instead, my ability to listen deeply is one of the most powerful things I bring to the room. Feel the difference there? One is apologetic, one is grounded, and actually a leadership strength. That's the shift. You're going to want to practice thinking that new sentence as much as possible this week. Write it somewhere you're going to see it all the time. Put it on a post-it note, on your monitor, whatever you need to do to remind yourself to practice thinking that thought all week. This is reframing that thought and embedding it. It's creating a new neural pathway. This is not a mantra. It's not affirmation fluff. It's neuroscience. This is just another version of self-leadership before servant leadership, because you can't lead others powerfully when the story you've been telling yourself is that you're not enough. When you stop leading from a borrowed identity and start leading from your own blueprint, things are going to shift in ways that you don't expect. You stop walking into meetings braced for the performance. You walk in grounded, knowing that your contribution doesn't have to look like theirs to be valuable. You stop replaying conversations at midnight, looking for evidence that you said or did something wrong. You said what was true in the moment, and you know that it was enough. You stop chasing visibility for visibility's sake, and you realize that people have been noticing you all along. You just didn't notice them noticing. They were always there. They were always paying attention. You were just distracted monitoring yourself. And just know that self-doubt does not disappear entirely, ever. There's always going to be a version of it popping up now and again. But it stops running the show because you have replaced that borrowed identity with something more solid, something more true, something more authentic to you. You've replaced it with an honest and clear understanding of the leader that you actually are. That is not arrogance, that is authenticity. And it is the foundation that everything else is built upon. Now, if you want to go deeper on this work, I'm going to invite you to download my free guide. The link is in the description. It's called Lead Powerfully Without Pretending. It is a 10-minute reset. It's going to help you stop overthinking and stop overcompensating so you can start leading from who you actually are. Remember, alchemist leaders don't just adapt to challenges, they transform them. So pause for a moment today and ask yourself, what is the alchemy opportunity here? What does this make possible? And keep turning your unique perspective into leadership gold. I will see you in next week's videos. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.